Hi, my name is Everett. Today I am reading Midnight Treehouse, number 38, Time of the Turtle King by Mary Pope Osborne. So, if you're sitting comfortably, let's begin. Chapter 1, To a Port Far Away. Knock, knock. Jack opened his eyes and looked at his clock. It said 6:30 a.m. It was Tuesday, a school day, but school didn't start for another 2 hours. Knock, knock. Why was someone knocking on his door? Jack wondered. Come in, he murmured. The door opened, and he slipped into his room. Guess what? She said in a hushed voice. You won't believe it. I saw an albatross flying outside my window. A what? Said Jack. An albatross, said Annie. A huge white bird that flies over the ocean. It can fly or float on water for years without even touching land. And it was circling our house. You're right. I don't believe it, said Jack. He rolled over and closed his eyes. No, it was real. I promise, said Annie. It was a messenger from a faraway place. I'm sure of it. Like that oxpecker bird that lives in Africa. Remember? It led us to the grasslands. Jack suddenly felt fully awake. Oh, he said. He sat up. Maybe we should check it out. Yes, come on, let's go, said Annie. Okay, but we have to be back in 15 minutes, before Mom and Dad wake up, said Jack. Meet you outside, said Annie. Right, said Jack. And he left Jack's room. Jack changed into a jeans and a t-shirt and a hoodie. Then he slipped down the stairs and met Annie on the front porch. The morning was gray and chilly. Annie was looking at the early September sky. Do you see the white bird? Asked Jack. No, said Annie, frowning. Let's check the woods. Okay, we better go fast, said Jack. Jack and Annie left their porch. They hurried across the yard and up the street. Hey, I see it now, said Jack. Oh man, it's huge. The albatross was flying above the Frog Creek woods. It has the widest wingspan of any bird on earth, said Annie. It's incredible, said Jack. He and Annie dashed across the street and into the woods. As they ran, a cold breeze made the leaves rustle. Early morning birds were calling out to each other. Jack and Annie ran between the trees until they came to the tallest oak. They looked up. Good work, said Jack. The magic treehouse was back. Thank the albatross, not me, said Annie. The giant white bird was circling above the treetops. It dipped down for a moment, then it soared off into the gray sky. We're on our way, Annie called after the albatross. Jack and Annie scrambled up the rope ladder. As soon as they were inside the treehouse, Jack saw a piece of paper on the floor. He picked it up. Morgan's handwriting, he said. He read aloud. Your badges are magic. You'll be what they say. Clip them on when you land in a port far away. Show them to strangers, and they'll all agree. No matter your age, experts will see. But the experts to find, the one to admire, is the one you must save from a river of fire. Be honest and gentle, no need to be smart. Just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart. Magic badges, said Annie. Jack and Annie looked around the treehouse. There, said Jack. He pointed to 2 badges tucked in a corner. Annie grabbed them. They look like name tags, she said, but they're blank. Annie handed one of the badges to Jack. It had a clip to attach it to a piece of clothing. Jack looked at Morgan's rhyme again. According to this, we put them on when we land, and then we each become an expert. What kind of expert? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. It seems we're about to know tons of stuff about something, like you know about animals. Oh, I only know a little compared to real experts, said Annie. Then I wonder what kind of real experts will be, said Jack. He looked around the treehouse. The only book he saw was the Pennsylvania book that always took them home. Darn the research book, said Jack. Like our last trip, said Annie. Yeah, but at least we had a little butcher to read, said Jack. Oh yeah, said Annie. I get it. Morgan said we'd turn into experts. If we're experts, we won't need lots of extra information to help us. Maybe, said Jack. Okay, let's go. He looked at Morgan's note again. I think if we point at the words a port far away, the treehouse will take us there. Wait, what's a port exactly? Asked Annie. You know, a town where ships and other boats go in and out, said Jack. It's usually beside the sea. All right, makes sense, said Annie. Let's go where an albatross. That's where an albatross would hang out, for sure. Let's try it. Jack pointed to the words a port far away. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2, Morgan's Magic. A soft sea breeze blew into the treehouse. Jack heard birds calling and waves crashing. He inhaled moist, salt air. Nice clothes, said Annie. We look good. Yeah, we do, said Jack. They were both wearing long-sleeved green shirts with pockets, baggy tan cargo pants, and hiking boots. They looked out the window together. The treehouse had landed in a palm tree. The tree stood at the edge of a long white beach. Sunlight sparkled on a gentle ocean waves. There's the beautiful bird, said Annie. An albatross was gliding on the wind. Seagulls and blackbirds with huge wings also circled above the beach. Out in the ocean, a motorboat was speeding toward a dock that extended beyond the shoreline. Okay, a motorboat, said Jack. We must not have gone very far into the past. I see trucks too, said Annie. She pointed to 2 white pickup trucks parked near the beach. And our clothes, ready to climb down. Wait, our badges, said Jack. All right, said Annie. She handed Jack his badge. Jack and Annie clipped the badges to the pockets of their green shirts. Ready now, said Jack. Annie gasped. Wait, something's happening to our badges. Jack looked at Annie's badge. One at a time, letters were magically appearing until they spelled Annie, World Turtle Experts. World Turtle Experts, said Jack. He looked down at his own badge. It now said, Jack, World Turtle Experts. What does that mean? Said Jack. It means we're World Turtle Experts, said Annie. But what does that mean? Said Jack. It means we're World Turtle Experts, said Annie again. Get it? Turtles, really? Said Jack. He looked out the window. To his surprise, his mind was suddenly filled with expert turtle information. Oh, I know where we are now, he said with wonder. We landed on Isabel Island. It's part of the Galapagos Islands. Right, said Annie, looking with him. The Galapagos belongs to the country of Ecuador. Any turtle experts would recognize this place. Of course, said Jack. It's world famous for having the biggest tortoises in the world. The Galapagos giant tortoises. The kings and queens of the turtle world, exclaimed Annie. I love giant tortoises. Who doesn't, said Jack. Most of the Galapagos is a national world to protect wildlife. On the island, you'll find 15 different... Suddenly, Jack shook his head. Wait, this is too weird. Let's take these off. He unclipped his badge from his shirt. Annie did the same. I don't know what I'm saying, said Jack. I never knew anything about these islands before. I've never even heard of them. And turtles? Really? I never knew anything about turtles. Well, we do now when we wear our badges, said Annie. Get it? They instantly turned us into World Turtle Experts and gave us a bunch of knowledge. She picked up their note again. Listen, your badges are magic. You'll be what they say. Clip them on when you land in a port far away. But this is too strange, said Jack. I don't feel like myself. I don't sound like myself. I know, but it's fun, said Annie. I love being a World Turtle Expert. Don't you? I don't know, said Jack. Hey, it's just like the time Morgan gave us magic baseball caps, remember, said Annie? When we wore them, we instantly became bat boys in a major league game. We knew everything we needed to know. Yeah, right, we did, said Jack. Annie read more from the note. Show them to strangers, and they'll all agree. No matter your age, experts will see. Wow, this is so incredible, said Annie. When strangers see our badges, they'll totally believe we're grown-up experts. They won't see us as know-nothing kids. Now, how's that possible, said Jack. It's Morgan's magic, said Annie. Remember when people saw us wearing the magic baseball caps? They thought we were both teenage boys. Yeah, till a fan stole my cap, said Jack. Then everyone saw me as a kid lost on the ball field. Right, that was a disaster, said Annie. Just make sure you don't lose your badge. Keep it clipped to your shirt. Come on, let's go. Let's be World Turtle Experts for a day. Jack laughed. Yeah, okay, he said. They both clipped their badges back on. Suddenly, Jack began wrangling for more information. On the Galapagos Islands, there are 15 different kinds of giant tortoises. In fact, there are 5 kinds on this island alone. They live on... Wait, stop, said Annie. You don't need to tell me. I know all this information, too. Let's go meet those turtle experts. Come on! Chapter 3. The Enchanted Islands. Jack took Morgan's note into his pocket. Then he followed Annie down the rope ladder to the beach. Head toward the boat dock, said Jack. We can ask for information there. As Jack and Annie started walking, their hiking boots made tracks in the white sand. The breeze smelled of salt water and fish. They walked between pink lizards sunbathing on the beach and seagulls picking at seaweed. This place has a ton of wildlife, said Annie. Yep, I bet you don't know that the Galapagos have over 9,000 different types of creatures, said Jack. I know that, said Annie. Right. You're a world turtle expert, too, he said. Sorry. They skirted toward the sandpipers running toward the water and birds with big blue feet waddling at the ocean's edge. They passed a couple of sea lions resting on their backs. The sea lions lifted their heads at Jack and Annie. They seemed to be smiling. Living the dream, Annie called out to them. Jack laughed. They seemed to so relaxed and unafraid, said Annie. There's a reason for that, said Jack. For millions of years, the Galapagos Islands were cut off from the rest of the world, so the wildlife here never developed a fear of people. Yes, I know, said Annie. That's why explorers used to call the islands the Enchanted Islands, said Jack. They thought all the creatures were under a spell. Yeah, said Annie, I know. In fact, Jack interrupted her, and did you know that islands were created by volcanoes under the ocean? Over millions of years, layers of lava turned into islands. Well, yes, Jack, I know, said Annie. In fact, and, interrupted Jack, there are still 30 active volcanoes on this island. Did you know that? Jack, said Annie, we're both turtle experts. Everything you know, I know too. Oh, right, said Jack. In fact, today there are 6 active volcanoes on Isabel Island alone, said Annie. Said Jack. Maybe we should ask someone about those volcanoes. Oh, wow, brown pelicans, said Annie. I love pelicans. Jack and Annie had arrived at the wooden pier that stretched out into the water. A number of brown pelicans hovered near tied-up vessels. An older man with a beard was hauling in a fish net from the boat. Look, Annie said, pointing. Tourists! At the end of the pier, passengers were stepping off the boat. Jack and Annie had seen. At the end of the pier, passengers were stepping off the boat Jack and Annie had seen. The writing on the boat said, Galapagos Cruises. The tourists wore baggy shorts, flowered shirts, and sun hats. They carried beach bags and cameras. Mister, where the taxes? A man bellowed. Mister, where are the taxes? A man bellowed at the fisherman. The fisherman didn't look at the tourists. He just pointed to the 2 white pickup trucks waiting near the beach. As Jack and Annie stood at the entrance of the pier, Jack held his breath. Would the tourists see him and Annie as world turtle experts? But as the group bustled by, everyone was talking and laughing loudly. They passed Jack and Annie without glancing at them. A moment later, they were all piling into the white trucks by the shore. Okay, let's go talk to the fisherman, said Jack. We'll find out if he sees us as an expert. Good idea, said Annie. We'll ask him about the turtles. Yeah, and we can ask him about the 6 active volcanoes here on Isabel Island, said Jack. As Jack and Annie started down the pier, their hiking boots thumped over the worn wooden planks. Hi, guys, Annie called out to the couple of pelicans perching on the railing. Suddenly, one swooped up into the air and stole a small fish from a seagull. Whoa, not fair, Annie shouted at the funny-looking bird. The pelican landed on the railing, threw back his head, and swallowed the fish whole. Jack and Annie both laughed. Listen to me, Annie said to the pelican. Don't take what doesn't belong to you. The pelican lowered his head. Good, you should be embarrassed, said Annie. Jack laughed again. Annie, don't forget, when we meet people, you can't treat wildlife like they're human, said Jack. Experts don't do that. Oh, right, said Annie. I guess I just slipped back into my real self. Jack and Annie kept walking toward the fisherman. Hello, Jack called out. The man didn't turn around. Don't worry, more tourist taxes is soon, he said in a grumpy voice. Actually, we're not tourists, said Annie. The fisherman looked over his shoulder. Jack and Annie pointed at their badges. The fisherman seemed startled. Oh, I see, he said. You're world turtle experts. My mistake. The magic works, thought Jack. Are you from the National Park Service? The fisherman asked. No, we've come from America to study Galapagos turtles, said Annie. Can you tell us the best spot to do that?" asked Jack. "You need to talk to the people at the Giant Tortoise Center," the man said. "Sounds good," said Jack. "How do we get there?" "If you're just walking, head toward town," said the fisherman. "Take the wildlife trail off the main road. Follow the boardwalk through Flamingo Lagoon, and you'll come right to the center." "Great, thanks," said Annie. As they started down, Annie grabbed Jack's arm. "The magic works," she whispered. I know," said Jack. "Wait." He called back to the fisherman. "Excuse me, sir, one more question. What's the volcano active these days?" The fisherman frowned and shook his head. "Not good," said Jack. "The Blue Hill volcano erupted 2 weeks ago," the man said. "The lava is still flowing." "Oh, wow, where is that?" asked Danny. "About 35 miles from here," the fisherman said. "Oh, good, it's far away," said Annie. "So I guess that means we're safe," said Jack. "Completely," the man said. "Thanks for your help," said Annie. "Have a nice day," said Jack. As they walked back down the dock, Jack smiled. "That's good," said Jack. "For once, we're not in danger." Chapter 4, Flamingo Lagoon. Jack and Annie stepped off the pier. They walked up a sandy road into a small town. They passed a few small shops. Seashell Gifts, the Green Lizard, the Tortoise Tavern. "This isn't much of a town," said Jack. "It seems pretty empty." "Maybe the active volcano is keeping most tourists away," said Annie. "That's silly," said Jack. "The fisherman said it's completely safe here." "True," said Annie, "but bad news can scare people." "Stop," said Jack. He pointed at a sign marked Wildlife Trail. "There's the path the fisherman told us to look for." He and Annie left the road. They walked down a pebble path shaded by tree branches. "Oh, wow, a pink iguana," said Annie. They stopped to look at a huge lizard resting on a branch. The iguana had a pale pink skin with dark stripes. "It looks like a tiny dinosaur," said Annie. The Galapagos are the only place on Earth where pink iguanas live," said Jack. "They've been on Earth about 5 million years." "I know," said Annie. "Come on, there's the boardwalk over the lagoon," said Jack. He and Annie headed over the raised wooden walkway. As they crossed the murky water, they saw even more wildlife. The dark pond was filled with ducks. Birds were cheeping and flittering everywhere. "Mockingbirds, finches," Jack said. "Herons and flamingos," said Annie. Blue herons stood in the shallows. A pair of flamingos waded together with slow, graceful steps. They dipped their heads into the water. "They're like dancers taking a bow," said Annie. She jumped up and down and clapped her hands. "Yay!" she shouted. "Annie, you need to calm down," said Jack. "If you want people to see you as an expert, you can't act like a kid." "Right, sorry," said Jack. Jack and Annie left the boardwalk. They followed a short trail through a dry, mossy forest. The air smelled of mint. Bright yellow iguanas and long green lizards rested on tree trunks and branches. The whole island seemed alive with amazing creatures. The forest soon opened up into a clearing. A one-story wooden building was bathed in sunlight. It had a thatched roof and a yard with fencing. A sign read, "Giant Tortoise Center." "That's it," said Annie. "A turtle expert's dream." "Right, but when we go inside, remember that experts act tools," said Jack. "Cool is boring," murmured Annie. "Yeah, but knowledge isn't," said Jack, "and we have tons of it." As they walked up to the entrance, 2 white pickup trucks rolled into a parking lot area near the center. "Oh, brother, it's the tourists from the Galapagos Cruises boat," said Jack. "What's wrong with that?" asked Annie. "I just hope they don't get in our way," said Jack. "Don't worry," said Annie. "We don't even know what we're supposed to do yet." Jack and Annie stepped into a lobby of the Giant Tortoise Center. The lobby was filled with wildlife displays and a map of the building and grounds. A tall young woman with a long black ponytail stood at the counter. She wore a green uniform and was quickly making notes as she talked to someone on the phone. "Yes, sir, I understand," she said. "Emergency action was taken earlier today, but now they must try again." "What emergency action?" Jack wondered. The woman glanced up and saw Jack and Annie. They both pointed at their name badges. The woman's eyes grew wide. "I have to call you right back," she said into the phone. Then she hung up. "Welcome, Jack and Annie," she said. "I'm Carmen, the only guide at the center right now. No one told me important guests were coming today. Our director should have been here to greet you, but we have an emergency." Before Carmen could finish, the tourist group from the boat banged through the front door. Chapter 5, Time for Tortoises. Jack wanted to ask Carmen about the emergency, but the tourists immediately started asking questions. Excuse me, do we have to pay? Do you have a bathroom here? We brought boxed lunches. Where can we eat at lunchtime? I'll answer all of your questions in a minute, Carmen assured them. But first, I need to speak to our special guests. She turned back to Jack and Annie. As I was saying, our director isn't here because of a crisis. I want to show you around the center, but I need to make some calls first. Carmen, don't worry about us, Annie said firmly. How can we help you? Goodness, you're so kind. Could you? Carmen looked at the noisy tourists. Could you give them information about the center and the tortoises, please? Of course, said Annie. We can handle that. No problem, said Jack. Oh, thank you, said Carmen. She pointed to the map on the wall. That shows you the layout of the center. Perhaps you can lead them around while I deal with the crisis. Could you tell us about the crisis? Jack asked, trying to sound like an expert. Yes, said Carmen. The Park Service called about more endangered turtles and... Miss, a man interrupted Carmen. Can you just tell us how to find the tortoises? No, I can't tell you. I need to show you, said Carmen, sounding upset. Sorry, she seemed flustered. Jack and Annie, could you please... Go ahead, Carmen, we got this, said Annie. You make your calls, said Jack. Oh, you're lifesavers. Thank you, said Carmen, and she slipped into a back room. I'll look at the map, Jack said to Annie. You get their attention. He hurried over to the map on the wall. Greetings, friends, Annie called out. No one seemed to hear her. Noise from the chattering tourists filled the lobby. Greetings, friends, Jack shouted. He pointed at his badge for all to see. The tourists looked startled. A couple of them loudly hushed the others. Shh, shh. Thank you, said Annie, and welcome to the Giant Tortoise Center. I'm Annie, and this is my brother Jack. She pointed at Jack, studying the map. We are world turtle experts today. People spoke softly to each other. World turtle experts? That's a big deal. I'm so impressed. Jack returned to Annie's side. First, there are some rules to follow, he said to the group. Rule number 1, please do not talk or laugh loudly. Our tortoises' friends prefer peaceful surroundings. Rule 2, please do not touch any tortoises, said Annie. Rule 3, please don't take photos of them. This is their home and we are their guests. Everyone nodded meekly. Thank you for our cooperation, Jack said. Okay, now follow us. Jack and Annie led the tourists out of the lobby and down the hall. They stopped in front of a closed door. Let's pause for a moment, Jack said. We're about to enter an area with many giant tortoises. The group murmured with excitement. But none of the tortoises are really giant yet, said Annie. You are about to meet many tiny turtle babies and little turtle kids. Hatchling, said Jack. The name for a baby turtle is hatchling. Hold on there, said the large bald man. You say tortoises one moment and turtles the next. Which are they? Excellent question, said Jack. Yes, we world turtle experts get the questions a lot, said Annie. Yes, we world turtle experts get that question a lot, said Annie. All tortoises are turtles, said Jack, but not all turtles are tortoises. The giant tortoise of the Galapagos are the largest members of the turtle family. Think of them as the kings and queens of the turtle world, said Annie. Oh, I love giant tortoises, said a woman in a sun hat. Me too, said Annie. And the Galapagos Islands needs them, said Jack. Tortoises are vital to the ecosystem here, and can you explain that? Interrupted the large man. Sure, an ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms in their physical environment, Jack explained. No one said anything. They all looked confused. Annie stepped in. Jack means that everything on this island is connected. Tortoises, trees, other plants, insects all work together. If you destroy one of them, you harm the others. Understand? The tourists nodded with serious looks. A few hundred years ago, pirates and whale hunters visited these islands, said Jack. They killed hundreds of thousands of giant tortoises for food. Oh no, I hate that, said the woman with curly red hair. I would cry, said the woman in the sun hat. Me too, said Annie. We all could, said Jack, but fortunately things have changed. Today the National Park Service is doing all it can to help these giant tortoises live long, happy lives. Hooray for them, exclaimed the woman with curly red hair. Mom, quiet, whispered a teenage girl. Yes, hooray for them, said Annie. They are good people everywhere trying to do and help endangered animals, said Jack. Are you ready? Everyone nodded. Time for tortoises, said Annie, and she opened the door to the outside. Chapter 6, The Worst News. The group followed Jack and Annie into the fenced yard. We'll visit the hatchery first, said Jack. He led everyone to a row of wooden trays covered with screens. Annie removed one of the screens. Oh, wow, she said. Annie, said Jack. Sorry, she whispered. She lowered her voice. Everyone, please step closer and have a good look. The tourists moved forward. They murmured with excitement. The tray was filled with eggs the size of tennis balls. Tiny tortoises crawled among some of the eggs. Jack picked up an egg. Park Service workers collected tortoise eggs in the wild, he said. They bring them here to keep them safe. Annie lifted a tiny tortoise from the tray. She set it in the palm of her hand. A newly hatched giant, she said. Aw, I could die, said the red-haired woman. Me too, said Annie. This tiny baby is only 3 inches long and weighs only a few ounces. But get this, it will grow to be 1,000 times bigger. As an adult, it could easily weigh more than 500 pounds. The group gasped. Some baby, laughed an old man. I know, it's a miracle, isn't it, said Annie. The tiny tortoise stretched out its neck and turned its head. It looks positively ancient, said the red-haired woman. In a way it is, said Jack. Giant tortoises have lived in the Galapagos for 2 or 3 million years. Good luck, sweetie, Annie said softly to the tiny tortoise. Have a nice life. And she carefully returned the hatchling to the tray. So when the hatchling is older, it will be moved over here, said Jack. He led the group to an open pen. The tourists gasped with wonder. Hundreds of small tortoises were crawling around in grass and dirt. Some were munching green stalks, others were climbing rocks or soaking in pools of water. The tourists whispered and smiled. Do they have any brains? The old man asked. You mean, are they smart? Said Annie. Yes, they are, answered Jack. Tortoises are super smart. They have a different kind of brain power than we have. But they know exactly how to live their lives. And those lives are really long, said Annie. Tortoises can live for more than 150 years. Whoa, said the old man with a laugh. That's their secret. Another excellent question. Whoa, said the old man with a laugh. What's their secret? Another excellent question, said Annie. Besides having a shell that protects them, their secret is living a quiet, peaceful life. They never hurry. They spend their days resting in the sunlight, eating plants and soaking in puddles. Sounds good to me, the old man roared. I heard tortoises are deaf, the red-haired woman said. That's not exactly true, said Jack. They don't hear well, but they can feel vibrations. How do you know if one is male or female? Asked the woman in the sun hat. When it's fully grown, you can tell by its belly, said Jack. If the belly curves inward, it's a male. Now, Annie, why not you tell our friends about releasing the tortoises into the wild? When the tortoises are about 5 years old, they are ready to live on their own, said Annie. At the age, they're about the size of a melon. What kind of melon? The old man asked. Maybe honeydew, said Annie. Suddenly the door to the center opened. Carmen stepped in the yard. Jack, Annie, she called. May I have a quick word? Excuse me, Jack said to the group. He and Annie rushed over to Carmen. The Park Service needs your help right away, Carmen said in a hushed voice. What is it? Said Jack. Special Forces will explain, said Carmen. They're waiting outside the front door. You go, I'll take care of the visitors. Carmen hurried to the tortoise pen, and Jack and Annie slipped into the building. As they headed to the lobby, Jack's heart was pounding. Special Forces? This must be the emergency Carmen was talking about, he said. I wonder what it is. I don't know, said Annie, but it can be good. When they went out the front door of the center, Jack and Annie saw 2 strong-looking men standing near a white pickup truck. Their backs were toward Jack and Annie. They were dressed in green military uniforms. Point to your badge, Annie said to Jack. Right, said Jack, pointing to the world expert World Turtle Expert badges, Jack and Annie headed over to the soldiers. "Excuse me, gentlemen," said Annie. Both soldiers turned around. When they saw Jack and Annie's badges, they both saluted to Jack and Annie. "Very glad you're here, Jack and Annie. I am Captain Cruz," said one of the men. "Captain Pinto," said the other, "a Honduran Special Forces." "What's up, Captain?" Jack said calmly. "Rescue mission on Blue Hill Volcano," said Pinto. "Mission National Park Service help asking for your help. All giant tortoises are being cleared from a small area of the volcano," Cruz said. "A fiery river of molten lava is heading their way." "Oh dear," said Annie. "We assume you're familiar with sorts of tortoise rescue missions," Cruz said. "Yes, sir, no problem," said Annie. Jack barely nodded. As a world turtle expert, he knew all about tortoises, but nothing about how to deal with fiery rivers of molten lava. "Good, let's go," said Cruz. "On it," said Annie. She followed Pinto and Cruz to yet another white pickup truck. She looked back. "Jack!" Jack took a deep breath. "Yep, on it," he murmured, and he hurried after Annie and the soldiers. Chapter 7, Rivers of Fire. The two soldiers climbed into the front of the truck. Jack and Annie sat in the back. Cruz started the engine. The truck turned onto a back road. Then it swept away from the giant tortoise center. Jack looked at Annie. Annie looked at Jack. "We've got this," she said in a low voice. Jack wasn't so sure. He leaned forward. "Sirs, can you explain our part in this mission?" he said. "A small group of giant tortoises live on the southwest side of the Blue Hill volcano. We thought they were safe," said Pinto. "Until yesterday." "What happened yesterday?" asked Jack. "The lava river split into two streams," said Pinto. "One of them is flowing toward the home ground of the Blue Hill tortoises." Annie nodded. "That's bad," she said. "Yes, but there were earlier airlifts today," said Cruz. "Hopefully our team has rescued all of them, but there could be stragglers," said Pinto. "And this is the last chance to help them." "Escape," said Cruz. Jack's expert self was very calm, was very alarmed. "Gentlemen, it's absolutely vital we save every last one," he said. "The tortoises of Blue Hill are extremely rare. Reports say 98% of their population has disappeared in the last 180 years. We can't afford to lose any of them." "Understood," said Pinto. Jack sat back in the seat and took a deep breath. Right now, his fear of the tortoises was greater than any fear of an active volcano. He nodded at Annie. "We've got this," he said. "Read Morgan's rhyme," she whispered. "Why?" said Jack. As an expert, he'd given little thought to Morgan's rhyme. He hadn't felt they needed it. "To make sure we're doing the right thing," said Annie. "We are," said Jack confidently. "But just to please, Annie." He pulled out the rhyme. As they read together, Annie pointed to the third section. "But the expert to find, the one to admire, is the one you must save from a river of fire." "No problem," Jack said in her ear. "Morgan's talking about the giant tortoises. We're obviously the true experts. They're the experts at being giant tortoises. It's all falling into place." "Right, but read this part," said Annie. She pointed to the last section. Jack read to himself. "Be honest and gentle. No need to be smart. Just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart." "That's super important," Annie whispered to Jack. Jack nodded. Those lines were nice, but as an expert, he certainly didn't find them super important. He tucked the rhyme back into his pocket. The truck headed along the road beside the ocean and passed a few shops. Then it bounced over a long, sandy road. The road ended at a small airstrip. A military helicopter was waiting. "There's our chopper," said Cruz. "A chopper ride? Wow," said Annie. "That's our first." Jack held up his hand to stop her. "That's our favorite way to travel," Annie said, correcting herself. Cruz parked near the runway. "It will get us there quickly. We'll be on the volcano in 10 or 15 minutes. "Good, the sooner the better," said Jack. His expert self was unafraid of taking his first chopper ride. The four of them climbed out of the truck and hurried to the runway. The helicopter's cockpit had 4 seats. Jack and Annie climbed into the seat behind the 2 pilots. Cruz handed them helmets and they strapped them on. "How does the chopper transport tortoises?" Jack asked. "We have crates in the cargo section," said Cruz. A moment later, the blades started to whirl. With the roar, the helicopter lifted off the ground. It rocked from side to side and then headed into the sky. Annie grinned at Jack. Yikes, she mouthed. Jack gave her a thumbs up. The helicopter flew over flat, rocky land dotted with bushes and other plants. Pinto pointed to a distant dome-shaped volcano with sloping sides. That's it, he shouted above the roar of the chopper blades. A cloud of steam rose from the top of Blue Hill. Red hot lava bubbled down the sides. Whoa, said Annie. Jack tapped his finger against his mouth, reminding her to act cool, but his heart pounded as the chopper drew closer. The volcano eruption looked terrifying. Jack could see the two fiery streams that had split from the lava river. Lava was oozing from cracks in the slope. Patches of grass were catching fire. Smoke filled the air. The helicopter started to land on the lower part of the volcano. The surface was rough and craggy from ancient lava flows. Through the smoke, Jack saw black rocks the size of tall grass and thick clumps of bright yellow and apple-green cactus plants. Good tortoise food. Prickly pear cactus, Jack shouted to Pinto and Cruz. They like the yellow lava cactus too, shouted Annie. It only grows in the islands of the Galapagos. That's where we should begin our search, shouted Jack. Understood, shouted Pinto. The spinning blades were slowing as the helicopter settled on the slope. Finally, they came to a complete stop. Okay, let's go, said Cruz. Make it fast. That lava will be here before we know it. Understood, said Annie. She and Jack took off their helmets and climbed down onto the rough, black ground. Chapter 8. The last one. The smoky air was hot and steamy. Above Jack and Annie, the stream of liquid fire was steadily moving their way. Separate and search the area, said Cruz. Jack, Annie, Cruz, and Pinto headed in different directions to search for giant tortoises, still stranded on the volcano. As Jack kept his eyes around chunks of jagged black rock, his eyes and throat burned from the smoke. He moved between thickets of green prickly pear cactus and lava cactus. He bent down to look behind the lava plant. Ouch! He yelped. The lava cactus had needle-sharp spines. A clump of spines had poked through his shirt sleeve, pricking the skin. Jack yanked his arm loose from nearly falling over. All clear, Cruz shouted. Annie? Clear, sir, shouted Annie. Jack! Sir, shouted Cruz. Clear! Jack yelled hoarsely, but suddenly nothing seemed clear. He thought he could hardly see through the smoke. His thoughts were muddled. His arm hurt. He didn't know what he was doing. We have to move quick. The lava will be here soon, Cruz yelled. Meet you at the chopper. Jack stumbled away from the cactus plant. He looked up and saw the river of lava oozing down the slope. He felt terrified. Let's go, Jack, Annie called. Jack didn't answer. Jack, are you okay? Annie called, running to him. No, yes, Jack was breathing hard. I don't know. Hey! Where's your badge? Cried Annie. Jack looked down at his shirt. Oh no, it's gone, he said. It must have come unclipped from my pocket. He looked around wildly. Okay, stay calm. Don't panic, said Annie. But Cruz and Pinto will see I'm just a kid, cried Jack. It's happening again, just like when I lost my magic baseball cap. Don't worry, we'll find it. You start looking, said Annie. I'll go tell the guys you have one more place to search for tortoises. Jack took off. Annie took off. Jack started crawling on his hands and knees, frantically searching for his badge. He crawled around the prickly pear and lava cactus. He looked deep into crevices. He peered under a shelf of rock. He gasped. Two shining eyes stared back at him. Jack scrunched down to see better. The shiny black eyes belonged to a giant tortoise. Oh no, said Jack. We can't be here. You have to go home. Lava's coming this way. The creature kept staring at Jack with a calm, thoughtful gaze. The tortoise was completely tucked inside the small cave of rock. There was no way to get it out. Jack wished he were wearing his badge. He didn't know anything about tortoises now, how to help them or what to do. He was overcome with fear and confusion. You've got to come out, Jack begged. Please, Annie, he called, but his voice was hoarse. Annie! Listen, lava's coming, Jack said to the tortoise. It's burning up everything in its path. The creature still didn't move. Oh, come Ow, please hurry, Jack pleaded. He put all his heart into begging the tortoise. Please, lava's heading this way. You'll be killed if you don't come out. There are soldiers to fly you to safety. Please start walking. Come to me. I can take you to them. You're one of the last of your kind. You have to come out. Jack felt tears in his eyes. We can't lose you, please. Slowly, finally, the tortoise stuck its neck out. It started to jack on its thick, slumpy legs. Yes, oh man, that's it. Keep coming, Jack urged. He crawled back to make room for the tortoise. Faster, walk faster. The giant tortoise kept plodding toward until it stepped out from under the ledge. The creature's small head moved close to Jack's face. Its flat nose was almost touching Jack's nose. Jack held its breath as he looked straight into the bright black eyes of the giant tortoise. He and the tortoise stared at each other for a long moment. Jack felt as if he were looking into a face as old as time. He felt as if the two of them had known each other forever. You're going to be okay, he whispered to the tortoise. I promise. I love you. The whole world loves you. Jack! Annie called from nearby. I'm here, Jack shouted. Come quick. Good news, Annie shouted. I found your badge. It had fallen between some lava plants. Come on, we're leaving. No, you come here, yelled Jack. Annie hurried toward the rocks. Okay, but what could be better? Annie stopped when she saw Jack and the tortoise. Oh, wow, you found one, a giant tortoise. I don't believe it, she cried. I'll get the guys. Annie tossed the badge into the grass near Jack. Then she ran back to the copter. Jack rubbed his fingers along the wrinkled leather skin of the creature's neck. Pinto and Cruz are coming for you now, he said gently to the tortoise. They'll pick you up, but don't worry. They're super strong. They're part of the special forces in Ecuador. They'll fly you to safety. The creature kept looking at Jack with bright, trusting eyes. Its mouth curved into a thin, crooked smile. Jack smiled back. They kept smiling silently at each other until Jack heard Annie and the soldiers. Jack grabbed his badge from the grass. He clipped it onto his shirt, and instantly he was a world turtle expert again. Chapter 9, The Turtle King. Over here, team, Jack shouted. He rose to his feet as Annie and the soldiers raced around the rock. I found the last tortoise, he said. It was hidden under a ledge. Excellent. Good work, said Cruz. Pinto and I can carry it to the chopper. But we have to hurry. We're running out of time. Okay, but go easy, said Jack. I'm guessing it's at least 150 years old. The shell is softer than you'd think. It's made of honeycomb structures. Very strong, but not rigid. Understood, said Pinto. He and Cruz gripped the big round shell. Then, very carefully, they lifted the tortoise off the ground. Ah, said Jack. It's a male. His belly curves inward. So he's a king, Annie murmured to Jack. I know, said Jack. A great king. Let's grab some grass for his crate, said Annie. Go slow and low, Jack instructed the soldiers. We'll gather some natural bed and meet you at the chopper. Jack and Annie pulled handfuls of tall grass from the nearby ground. They hurried through the smoke to the helicopter, opened the side door, and climbed into the cargo area. Jack and Annie spread the grass on the bottom of the crate. A bed fit for a king, said Annie. Yep, he deserves the best, said Jack. The soldier carried the giant tortoise to the cargo section. They lifted the creature and carefully placed him in the crate. As he strapped himself inside to keep him safe for the flight, Pinto made a call from the helicopter phone. Cruz wrote notes on the clipboard. While the soldiers were busy, Jack and Annie looked at the tortoise. The turtle king peered back at them. His head bobbed up and down. That movement means he's relaxed, said Annie. I know, said Jack. He trusts us. The tortoise lowered his head, resting it on the soft grass of his crate. He closed his eyes. I know what he's thinking, said Jack. Really? You do, said Annie. He's thinking, I'll take a little nap until this part is over, said Jack. Then I'll be in a safe place. I'll sit in the sun, and they'll give me something good to eat. Annie laughed. You know him pretty well, she said. Hurry, shouted Cruz. Climb inside. The lava's almost here. The soldiers closed the door to the cargo section. Jack and Annie scrambled into their seats and put on their helmets. Okay, all set, said Pinto, hanging up the phone. We have permission to fly him to the tortoise center. The rotor blades started to spin. With a loud roaring, a chopper sound, and chopping sound, the helicopter lifted off Blue Hill and carried them all away from the river of molten lava. The helicopter flew over the broad slope of the volcano. It flew over rugged flatlands with patches of green. It flew along the coastline and over the lagoon. Finally, the helicopter hovered above the ground of the giant tortoise center. Jack saw the tortoises below. They were sitting in the grass eating box lunches. Jack saw the tourists below. They were sitting in the grass eating box lunches. As the helicopter started to land, they held on to their hats and scurried out of the way, leaving their lunches behind. The chopper's blades finally slowed to a stop. The soldiers, Jack and Annie, jumped out. Carmen rushed forward to greet them. "We saved the last one," said Annie. "He's in the back." Carmen burst into tears. She hugged Annie and Jack. "Thank you," she said, wiping her eyes. "Thank you so much." Pinto opened the cargo section. By now, the tourists were clamoring around the helicopter. They craned their necks to see the giant tortoise inside. "No photos of him," Annie reminded them. "And please keep your voices down," said Jack. The soldiers lifted the heavy creature out of the crate. They lowered him to the ground. Everyone clapped. Jack held up his hand and tapped his fingers on his lips. The tourists quickly stopped making noise. The tortoises stretched their necks. He slowly moved his head from side to side. Again, his mouth formed the shape of a crooked smile. Some tourists laughed quietly. The red-haired woman started to cry. Her daughter wept too. "Carmen told us what you were doing," the red-haired woman said to Jack and Annie. "We've all been so worried." Great job, the large man said in a soft voice. "You guys rock," said the teenage girl, sniffling. "How did you land the chopper on the volcano?" the old man asked Cruz. "How much lava was there?" asked the woman in the sun hat. The soldiers started answering the tourist questions about the rescue mission. Carmen turned to Jack and Annie. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "I'm sure everyone at the National Park Service is grateful for you, Harrison. We tried tonight and day to take care of these miraculous creatures." "We know," said Annie. "That's why we can't thank you enough for the work you did. And Pinto and Cruz, too." "Oh, yes, I must go congratulate them," said Carmen. She joined the others gathering around the soldiers. By now, the teenage girl was laughing and chatting with Pinto. "Let's go tell the king goodbye," said Annie. Jack took a deep breath. "Right," he said. He and Annie slipped over to the tortoise. They knelt down. Jack looked into the creature's shining black eyes. "You're in good hands now," Jack said softly. "Don't worry. One day your home will be safe again, and you can go back home to Blue Hill, where you've lived for 150 years. But for now, just try to enjoy yourself," said Annie. "Think of this as a vacation, Your Majesty, with nice people who love you. And remember," said Jack, "you're very brave. You're very wise. You know exactly how to be a giant tortoise. In fact, you are the real world turtle expert." The tortoise blinked again. He looked as if he were smiling. "Goodbye," Jack whispered. "We have to go now." A few tourists wandered over to the tortoise as Jack and Annie backed away. To his surprise, Jack felt close to tears again. "Let's go," he said. "Thanks, guys. Bye." Annie yelled to Pinto and Cruz. She held up her two thumbs. The Special Forces soldiers saluted them. "Bye, Carmen," yelled Annie. "Pleasure working with you. If you need further assistance, just go, Jack said, giving Annie a nudge. Without another word, they gave a final wave and hurried away from the giant tortoise center. Chapter 10, A Lucky Break. Jack and Annie headed back into the dry, mossy forest. They hurried past bright yellow iguanas and long green lizards. They walked over the broad boardwalk and through the lagoon with flamingos and herons. They hurried under the archway of trees into the small town. They passed the shops and stepped onto the beach. They passed the boat dock and the brown pelicans and started down the shore. Jack and Annie zigzagged around the friendly, fearless creatures, sea lions and sandpipers, birds with blue feet, gulls picking at seaweed, and pink lizards sunning up in the sand. Finally, they came up to their palm tree. They climbed up the rope ladder and into the treehouse. "We made it," said Jack. "We did," said Annie breathlessly. Take these off now. She pulled off her World Turtle Expert badge. Jack took his off too. He breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't feel nearly as smart, but he felt happy. Can you believe what happened today? Said Annie, grinning. Everyone thought we were World Turtle Experts. Everyone except the Turtle King, said Jack. He saw my real self. I know he did, said Annie. She smiled. Ready to go? Yep. Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book. Together, he and Annie looked out the treehouse window. The huge albatross was circling in the blue sky. Goodbye, Annie shouted to the bird. Thanks for bringing us to the Enchanted Islands. Jack found the photo of Frog Creek and pointed to it. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The trio started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. The gray early morning air was chilly. Jack and Annie were wearing their own clothes again. A breeze shook the leaves of the oak tree. While they'd been gone, no time at all had passed in Frog Creek. That was fun, said Annie. Jack smiled and nodded. But the trip to the Galapagos had been more than just fun, he thought. He'd never forget his moment alone with the giant tortoise. He didn't have words for it. Annie seemed to guess his thoughts. You did a good job, she said. You saved him. We all did, said Jack. But you did something special. You got him to trust you, said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. I wasn't an expert when I found him, said Jack. Without my badge, I felt really scared and confused. I know, but losing your badge was a very lucky break, said Annie. Why lucky, said Jack. If you hadn't been looking for it, you wouldn't have found him, said Annie. Oh, okay, that's true, said Jack. There's more, said Annie. Do you still have the note from Morgan? Jack checked his back pocket. Yep, it's here, said Jack. He handed the note to Annie. She read from the last 4 lines to him. Be honest and gentle. No need to be smart. Just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart. See, you did just what Morgan wanted, said Annie. To get to the volcano, we had to be World Turtle Experts. Yeah, our knowledge put us in the right place at the right time, said Jack. And it helped Pinto and Cruz land in the right spot on the volcano. Exactly, said Annie. But the most important moment, you were not an expert. You were just yourself. Without even thinking of Morgan's rhyme, you spoke to the giant tortoise from your heart. And the heart of the tortoise heard you, and he came out of his hiding place. Jack nodded. He remembered the creature's brilliant black eyes, his sweet crooked smile. I guess you're right, he said softly. I guess you could say we trusted each other. Yes, I could say that, said Annie. I'll never forget him, said Jack. He won't forget you either, said Annie. Tears came to Jack's eyes. He quickly wiped them away. Hey! Annie put her hand on Jack's shoulder. It's okay to cry, she said. Jack shook his head. Experts don't cry, he said. Sometimes they do, said Annie. Jack barely nodded. Like right now, all that experts are crying all across America, said Annie. Jack couldn't help but laugh. Okay, let's go, she said, standing up. We have to hurry. Yeah, we have to eat breakfast before school, said Annie, following him. I'm starving. Me too, said Jack. He started down the ladder. Annie followed him, and they walked quickly through the woods. We'll wake Mom and Dad up, said Annie. And we'll say, good morning, we love you. Now please go make us some pancakes with blueberries, said Jack. Bananas and walnuts, said Annie, stepping off the ladder. With maple syrup, said Jack. With everything, said Annie. And in the early September light, Jack and Annie ran toward home. The end. Bye, and thank you for reading Magic Treehouse number 38, Time of the Turtle King with me. I hope you stay in tune for more Mary Pope Osborne, Jack and Annie series I read. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. So, bye, till then.